Trump.
Our,
It's a fair point.
Our guest, Congressman Davidson, is an Army veteran, including service with the Old Guard here in the nation's capital. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the chair of the Joint Chiefs in a story in the Washington Post this morning about a briefing yesterday. Pentagon officials on Wednesday defended the military's tradition of staying out of elections after a new book reported that General Mark Milley, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, feared that President Donald Trump would attempt a coup.
Yeah, I've been a little concerned about General Milley as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. I mean, I suppose he fits just fine for what Biden's trying to do. He's politicized the military from the beginning. Right now I'm on the board of visitors for the United States Military Academy, and we haven't been able to meet since Joe Biden became president. So why? They suspended it because they were concerned the military was being politicized. The reality is they're working to politicize the military, and they're preventing anyone from being able to be present as they do it, so including members of Congress. So I'm very concerned about what Joe Biden's doing as commander-in-chief, what his Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, is doing, and now, sadly, what uniformed military officers are doing to politicize the military. I was very concerned by General Milley's idea that President Trump being able to say, look, we are going to control this street, we're going to push back people on this block, saying somehow he was embarrassed to be part of that. That is, in fact, the role. I mean, my own dad in the 60s was deployed from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, up to Andrews Air Force Base the last time the military was brought in to help establish security. Now, these were protests right after George Floyd, not after January 6th. And there were some other things the president did that people, I think, rightly had some concerns about politicizing. But the idea that that the nation's military would be used to secure the Capitol isn't controversial, and it certainly wasn't controversial on Inauguration Day and for 2 or 3 months afterwards as Fort Pelosi was erected here at the Capitol. So I am very concerned that the military is being politicized at every level under this administration, and it seems like General Milley seems okay with it as long as the political tune is going to the left.
This is Marion calling from Groveton, Georgia, Democrats line.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Representative Davidson, you're from Ohio. My first question, how long have you been in office?
I came in the summer of June 16th. I came in a special election because John Boehner, when he was Speaker of the House, not only did he resign as Speaker, he resigned as our member of Congress. So we had a special election. Okay. The primary was in March of 16, and then in June of 16 we had a special.
Okay, June 16th. Okay, then you've been there long enough. I have been reading, and this is a little off what the, everyday stuff we're talking about. In the last 20 years, we've gone from 15 million to 30 million acres of land, farmland, that is now being owned by other countries in our country. In other words, we've gone from 15 million to 30 million in 20 years of land owned by foreigners, and this is prime farmland. Ohio and Texas has no restrictions, and states can actually restrict how much land foreigners in their states can own. Iowa, nobody owns any, and no foreigners own any land in Iowa. So if you're in Ohio and you're so worried about foreigners, illegals coming in, why aren't you worried about foreign investors coming in and buying up unlimited amount of prime agricultural land in your state? And that's my question. Thank you.
It's a good question. You've already drawn the conclusion that I'm not worried about it, which is false. So during the previous Congress, a couple Congresses ago, when Republicans were in the majority, we passed the Foreign Investment Risk Reduction Modernization Act. That's a big cluster of letters. But there's a Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. It was strengthened. One of the big pieces that was strengthened in that was to review real estate purchases. So China in particular is purchasing real estate, not just farmland, but when they can't acquire sensitive technology, sometimes they'll buy the whole office building that something they want to acquire is in, and then try to use the building's infrastructure to steal the data. So we should rightly have concerns that real estate would be a way for foreign influence to grow in the United States. Under Republican leadership, bills were passed to do that. And I think you're right to say we should use a more holistic approach for the federal government and state governments to review this. And I think people have been slow to respond to foreign purchases of real estate in this kind of review process. That was intended to be addressed by FIRMA. But the other thing is we've been slow to respond to China broadly. I would greatly appreciate Donald Trump putting the emphasis on trade, being an Ohio guy and a manufacturing guy. This was long overdue. Our manufacturing sector in particular was being crushed by China's practices. And my hope is that we can build a broader coalition to deal with China's abuse. They promised to be a market-based economy as part of being in the World Trade Organization, and they have not done that. They steal intellectual property, they shape market access, they don't subsidize product in that really accelerates their abuse of stolen intellectual property. And so it is very anti-competitive, and they don't just do it to the United States, they do it to everyone. So my hope is that we can build a coalition around the world that forces China to behave differently in particular. But there are other concerns about real estate purchases, and so thanks